I'm not going to lie to you, fans. Your pal Sully is having a little bit of an allergy attack, but that's not going to stop me from doing not just one, but two podcasts. Actually, it's a crossover. It's a Locked On A's, Locked On MLB crossover.
You are Locked On MLB crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and hello, A's fans, and welcome to a Locked On MLB, Locked On A's crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you very much. Thank you, and we all have it because of you. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods or Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called these days. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully with Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you're following us and you want to leave a message on the social medias, then make sure to leave that hashtag everyday Sully. It helps us find you. So, yes, if you are a fan of Locked On MLB, I'm still here. I've been here since 2019. And if you're a fan of Locked On A's, I'm still pinch hitting as we're getting the new permanent host lined up for the Locked On A's show. As we just once again say goodbye to Booney, who did, I think, a terrific job. And some of you have enjoyed having me back for a few weeks, and some of you haven't. But do you know what? I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm going to talk positively about the A's today. I'm going to make that absolutely clear because there's something that occurred to me today. There's a lot, we could go on, talk about the spring training games and everything like that. And I mean, there's not a lot to say about spring training results because, they're practice. You want to make sure that the players are getting their reps. A's fans look away once again. It's a lopsided score. They got clobbered by the Milwaukee Brewers 10-0. Or as my mom would say, it was a lot to not enough. But once again, you had, Barnett didn't pitch particularly well in his 2 innings, but it's there to get reps in. You want to see the players get their best hits. Kurtz got a hit today. Langalier's got on base. Soderstrom got a hit today. There was Soderstrom made an outfield assist. You can't get too excited about the results of a spring training game. So that's basically all I'm going to say about that particular game if you're an A's fan. But I was thinking about this today. Some of you pointed out that when I guest hosted Locked On A's during the 2024 season and during a couple of times when Booney and I locked antlers. I adore Booney. He's a really good guy. We didn't always agree. We locked antlers a few times. And I was extraordinarily skeptical about the building of the stadium in Las Vegas. Well, they're building something there. Something's being built there. And I go to the ballpark cam all the time. And I posted this on my Instagram feed whenever it looks like there's a lot of progress being made there. And I went there just before recording this show. And it's at night, but they are building. You're starting to see, it's still a ways to go. It's still several years to go. But you're seeing a shape of a baseball stadium there, which is cool. And you're seeing it is indeed on the strip there, which is also cool. What else is going to be used in that land? I don't know, and neither do you. But at least the baseball stadium part of it is looking like it's happening. It looks like again, it's going to take a few more years for it to come out, but it's looking like they're actually doing it. And as I've been checking up on it, the fact that they're doing this stadium, and it looks like it may happen, it looks like it's going to happen, and if it does, then the A's will indeed play. I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be 2028. I don't know if it's going to be 2029. I don't know if it's going to be 2030. But if they're building that ballpark, and they're not going to abandon it like they abandoned the ballpark that they tried to build in Sacramento, and I'm going to be showing my episode about my quest to find the incomplete stadium in Sacramento, then we may see something really special. Because even when all the negativity and everything was going on, and I admit I was throwing as much negativity as you can. The design of the stadium in Las Vegas, the proposed stadium in Las Vegas, has always been outstanding, has always been really striking and unusual. I'm going to scratch my nose. You're going to have to deal with that. And it was always something that really stood out. It was not a lazy design. It was not a typical design. And it is not a design for a stadium that you would expect to see in this day and age based upon what stadium trends have been. And if they make this stadium in downtown, right on the strip there, it will be or it should be, a massive draw for baseball fans and curiosity seekers. It looks exactly like the type of stadium that I borderline begged the A's to build in the parking lot of the old Oakland Coliseum. It looks like a fresh new design. It looked like the type of design that, quite frankly, just looks startling, looks different, and doesn't look the same as everything else. The great dome that they're going to build there looks like it's going to bring in natural light. It is making no attempt to look like a traditional stadium or a Camden Yards type stadium. It is looking like something you would expect to have as the character of Las Vegas. It looks flashy. It looks intense. It looks like it's filled with all sorts of bright buzzers and screens and all sorts of things that could be borderline experimental and different. And for that reason, I think if they stick to the design, if they stick the landing, if they build the damn thing that they claim they're building in Las Vegas, and it turns out to be right, and I eat all the crow you could ever imagine based upon all the things I said in Locked On A's in 2024, then this will be so great for baseball. And the A's of all franchises would be leading the way in a new trend, potential trend in ballparks for a new type of experience, for a modern type of experience, for experience that is a unique one, memorable, and for some of the other cities that are looking for ballparks. I'm looking at you, Tampa Bay. I'm looking at you, the White Sox. I'm looking at you, Kansas City. I'm looking at you, potential expansion places like Salt Lake City, like Nashville, like Portland, like Charlotte, like potentially Albuquerque or Austin. Why doesn't someone put a team in there? I think they would really shine in there. I'm looking at all those places could look to what the A's did if this is the success that I think it could potentially be, and say that is the trendsetter. That is the new direction for stadiums. And as I like to do on this show, as I like to do on Locked On MLB, and I like to do when I'm guesting on Locked On A's, I like to point out that baseball's history has shown when there is a seismic event, the first team that goes into the new trend is the team that gets the greatest reward for it. And there have been several stadiums built over the years that have been trendsetters that other teams have aped and other teams have copied. And if this stadium with this design in Las Vegas comes true, then the A's could potentially be a team that leads the way instead of finding themselves following. All right, let's hear from our good friends over at TurboTax. You know what? I'm getting my taxes together. You know, that April date is going to come a lot faster than you're expecting. But tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online, and they handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they work with to get you every single deduction. You upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right on the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver, and it gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th, which is in 4 days. 3 by the time you're watching this. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local and book your appointment. When should you book that appointment? I'll tell you when. Do it today. Hey, we've got some live. Let's get rid of the TurboTax banner there. We've got some live comments on here. And that's big of you to own up to your mistake. It's disappointing to hear you battle with Booney. Teenage Potters coverage, not the standard easy hater narrative. Well, I'm telling you what I felt and what I thought. And I'm not a fan of the Fishers. I didn't like how the things left with Oakland. And I still have tremendous reservations about Las Vegas as a baseball market. There's nothing against the people of Las Vegas. It's a city with a big transplanted population that requires tourism in the summer, which is a tough sell for a desert town. And it's a tougher sell when you consider not a lot of people are doing, there's not a lot of tourism these days, certainly not a lot of foreign tourism. Gee, I wonder why. I'm not getting into that right now. That's just a fact. And the appeal of going to Las Vegas as one of the few places in America that you could actually gamble, well, you could gamble on your phone. This show sometimes is sponsored by FanDuel. So there were a lot of strikes going against the Vegas in my eyes. But I'll also own up when I was wrong. Absolutely. I want the A's to succeed. I want the A's to be a huge success. And if that means it's under Fisher, great. And I was skeptical, and I had reason to be skeptical. But they put their money, so far they've been putting their money where their mouth is. So if I would come on the show and say, I don't believe they're building a stadium, then I might as well be a flat earther. You have to, if you say something and your point of view, your take turns out to be wrong, you have to own up to it. I did that a few years ago when I had thoughts about Shohei Ohtani and the gambling thing. And my opinion, my take on it turned out to be wrong. Dead wrong. And so you say, yeah, I was wrong. What kind of person, what kind of human being doesn't admit when they're wrong? If you say something, you turn out to be wrong, you turn out to be factually incorrect, what kind of human being doesn't say, oh, I'll be darned, I turned out to be wrong? I don't know anyone I would respect. I still have my I don't know if the easy hater narrative is me because I dislike the Fishers, but that's me stating my opinion. And I'm still not crazy about them, but I want them to succeed. That's not hating. Now, before we go on, let's go quickly to the trivia question, the Lockdown MLB trivia question. Who was the last person to win a postseason MVP for a losing team? Sports Guy 10 says Bobby Richards is the only player to win a World Series MVP, meant to say, on a losing team. That's right, but that's not what I asked. I asked who's the last to win a postseason MVP on the losing team, and Harry Edelman 9922 got it right. It was Jeffrey Leonard. One flap down of the 1987 San Francisco Giants in the NLCS versus the Cardinals. I was at Game 5 of the 1987 NLCS between the Giants and the Cardinals. I was also at Game 3 and 4 of the ALCS in 1988 between Boston and Oakland, but I digress. Okay, let's talk a little bit about trend-setting stadiums, shall we? Now, for years and years and years, stadiums were just functional. Why did they have all those quirky little angles and everything? Were they trying to be old-fashioned traditional? No, they were just, that's where the streets were. And for years and years, that's the way ballparks were designed. And it seemed like a new trend was going to be set when the Los Angeles Dodgers displaced an entire neighborhood and community to build a stadium up on a mountain in Chavez Ravine, a baseball-only stadium where the sight lines are all perfect no matter where you're sitting. But that didn't turn out to be the trend. The trend that was set was by Shea Stadium. Shea Stadium was built and opened in 1964, and the Mets moved into there. The Mets were playing in the Polo Grounds, the old decaying Polo Grounds, for their first few seasons where they were dreadful. And I got news for you as I scratch my nose. They weren't much better in 1964. They lost 109 games in 1964, but they moved into Shea Stadium. And this is when drawing 1 million fans was rare. They drew 1.7 million. And believe it or not, Shea Stadium was considered to be a jewel. We now look at it as a concrete donut. But at the time, first of all, that was the way buildings were being designed then. Everything was kind of functional, that post-World War II functional. If you look at government buildings, everything made then, nothing was made to look ornate. It was a functional circular stadium, multi-purpose stadium. That eventually held the Jets and the Mets. But it was a huge deal when it opened up in Flushing Meadows. It's funny that people think of Shea as being a dump or something like that. When it was open, it was glamorous. It was big time glamorous, even though the team stunk, because it was a modern stadium. It felt new. That was a big thing of letting go of the old stuff and feeling modern and new. And you saw virtually the entire National League tear down all their old-timey stadiums to build their version of Shea. Down went Sportsman Park and up came Busch Stadium. I got to scratch my nose again. I'm sorry. I'm having an allergy attack. The new Busch Stadium came up, and of course the Cardinals were excellent then, but they filled that ballpark. Down went Forbes Field, and in came Three River Stadium. Down went Crosley Field. Down went Connie Mack Stadium. All these traditional old ballparks were just leveled because they wanted their concrete donut, because it was new. It was up to date. It was modern. Get rid of that old stuff. Give me the new stuff. And teams drew well there. And we may look back at them and say, oh, man, they all look the same. But you know what? At the time, that's what fans kind of wanted. They wanted a multi-purpose ballpark where their teams could excel and be terrific in. And I have huge, great memories of the great World Series that were played in Riverfront Stadium, at Three Rivers Stadium, the home run by Henry Aaron in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Go crazy, folks! Go crazy, folks! With Ozzie Smith hitting the home run there. All those concrete donuts had great memories. And the multi-purpose ballpark were all the rage. And quite frankly, some of these stadiums these cities that are looking for stadium situations would be a lot better off if they built a multi-purpose ballpark. If they built a multi-purpose ballpark in Las Vegas or a multi-purpose ballpark in Tampa Bay, then guess what? We wouldn't be in some of the mess that we're in right now. I digress. And Shea Stadium led the way. Shea Stadium was the ballpark that broke the mold of the old traditional ballparks and made it so it was a new type of stadium that everyone wanted to go to. And take a look at the attendance. Attendance went up when they went to those parks. It worked out. And for years, that was the trend. And it was Shea was the one that started that trend. Now, in the 80s, there were a couple of ballparks were made. You had the Metrodome, which was just weird, although it hosted the single greatest World Series I ever saw. You have what they now, I don't know what it's called now. Is it called Rate Field now? It was called New Comiskey Park, but that kind of was a swing and a miss. You also had Sky Dome, now called the Rogers Center in Toronto, and that was a massive success. A brand new, modern-looking stadium, a George Jetson type stadium, the retractable roof, the hotels. It was new. It was interesting. It caught people's eye. And back when it opened in 1989, it helped the fact that the Blue Jays were a very good team. But when it opened in 1989, it was a massive success. They were drawing 4 million fans there. And it looked like that was going to be the great new trend. But a different stadium opened up in the 1990s, and that was Oriole Park at Camden Yards, which is officially its name. It's Camden Yards. We all can't call it Camden Yards. The odd thing for the White Sox, because they had a chance, because they were building a new ballpark to replace Comiskey Park, the firm that designed Camden Yards proposed an old-timey stadium for the White Sox, and they turned it down. And instead, they built the ballpark, which they built, which I've been to a game there. It's a bit of a dud. Now, they could have been the trend-setting stadium. Instead, Camden Yards was that. And what happened? It started a brand new sensation. And fans started, the turnstiles were going like crazy. Even the Orioles, when they weren't particularly very good right out of the gate, they had an okay team, but they weren't great. It wasn't like they were winning the World Series or anything like that. Granted, they also had the Cal Ripken streak. That helped their attendance a little bit too. But people wanted to see the stadium. They wanted to get the feel of that stadium. There was nothing wrong with Memorial Park. I've been to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. I went to a game there. It's a fabulous place to see a baseball game. But Camden Yards became a cathedral, and it opened up, it hit all of the nostalgia buttons. It was the Star Wars Force Awakens of baseball stadiums that just hit the nostalgia button, whether or not it was real or not. Because there's nothing real about the nostalgia. There was no baseball park in Baltimore that resembled that with a warehouse and everything like that. But they created this nostalgic look, and people just want to say, "Oh, this is an old-timey park with quirks and it was not symmetrical." And they had all these things bouncing in and out, and it felt like an old-timey park. And then everyone wanted an old-timey park. Cleveland, I went to the old Cleveland Stadium, the Mistake by the Lake. Even if 30,000 people were there, there would be 40,000 empty seats. And believe me, 30,000 people weren't going there. But they opened up what was initially Jacobs Field, and suddenly, it became the place to go see a game. Coors Field opened up, and that became a massive success. The Giants played in Candlestick Park, one of the worst ballparks you will ever go to, and that was replaced by what was Pac Bell Park, and now is, what the hell is it now? Is it Oracle Park? You know what? They've changed the name so many times, I just am tempted to call it Pac Bell. But that became arguably the best stadium in baseball. And if that's not the best stadium in baseball, then Petco is. And if Petco isn't, then it's Citizens Bank Ballpark, the new ballpark in Cincinnati, the new ballpark in Pittsburgh. They're all amazing. And they all have this old-timey feel to them. And that became the trend. But you know what? That trend is starting to get a little stale. The new ballpark in St. Louis, they should have kept one concrete donut. I think they should have kept St. Louis. The new ballpark in St. Louis, great games have been played there, but is there anything particularly memorable about that stadium? The new stadium in Washington? Okay. Is there anything particularly memorable about that? Or the new stadium in Texas? The stadium they built in Texas, the ballpark in Arlington, that was great. They just forgot to put a roof on it. Now the new one they put a roof on, they finally won a World Series, but that sort of the old-timey look is starting to get a little stale now. And now the A's have a chance to be the trailblazer. And with that, do you know what? That would be a welcome addition for the A's to not be, taking up the rear, but instead being a trailblazer and be that team that people want to see their park, which quite frankly, their entire journey to Las Vegas is based on that concept. All right. I had to scratch my nose again. Forgive me. I probably shouldn't have done a show live with an allergy attack. But do you know what? Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire, and this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates. You can check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And that's less stress, less time, and more results. When you get the right person to cut through the chaos, then this is a job for Indeed sponsored job. Answer, you know what? Call to action. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed in this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Hey, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB or Locked On A's, whichever one your first listen. Baseball is back, and you can get locked in by joining the Everydayer Club, which gets you ad-free episodes and access to our group chat on Discord for the next week or so. You can use the code SPRING for a free month. Go to lockedonmlb.supercast or lockedonA's.supercast.com. Tap the link in the show notes and go check us out. But here's the deal. And by the way, Sershi 8731. I look forward to the Las Vegas A's new ballpark. Me too. Me too. And if it's what the designs look like, it's going to be amazing because, as I said, it looks different. It feels different. And if it's a massive success, then it will be a template for all these other cities who are looking to build a ballpark. That because it goes against the trend, that is the thing that gets people excited about going to a stadium, even if it's not your team. The look and feel of Shea Stadium, believe it or not, was exciting because part of what made the Dodgers and the Giants eventually move from Brooklyn and New York was the fact that their stadiums were crumbling and falling apart. And they wanted something brand spanking new. They wanted to build a dome in Brooklyn, believe it or not. And to finally have a big new modern stadium in New York was a revolutionary event and made people want to go see it. And they saw the success of it and everyone aped it. And it was different. Camden Yards was different. And when something is a success, people love to be the second or third or the fourth one to do the successful thing. And quite frankly, the A's have a chance to do that. If the A's can make this be a big tourist attraction, and again, I'm not going to get into political events and I'm not going to get into current events, but I will say that if let's just say the park opens in 2029, okay? We know it's not opening this year. We know it's not opening in 2027. There may not even be baseball in 2027. And chances are it won't be open in 2028, okay? So let's be kind and say it opens up in 2029. That the A's have, 4 full seasons, a full presidential term in Sacramento. And boy, oh boy, I hope they call themselves the Sacramento A's at one point. And I really hope they make the playoffs in Sacramento. I digress. If they get there by 2028, maybe by then, without getting into current events, the stigma of being a tourist in the United States will have simmered down a little bit. Tourism may be up. Maybe the economy will be in a different shape. Maybe there'll be other factors that give some people and younger people some more money in their pocket so they can do things like, I don't know, go on trips. And the destination of Las Vegas could be back. And one of the things that gives Vegas a little bump here and a little bump there is when there's a big new attraction. If there's a big new attraction from the ballpark, that could make it a big success. And other teams may look at that and say, hey, let's create a new, unique experience for our ballpark. By the way, another stadium that started a trend is the new ballpark that they built in Atlanta. There was no reason to build that ballpark because I went to Turner Field. Turner Field was fine, but they went out of town and they basically built a ballpark city. And that seems to be the new thing everyone wants. They want a ballpark city. Give us a ballpark city. But the ballpark within the city that they built for Atlanta is that old-timey park. And maybe, just maybe, that time is over. Now it's time for something brand spanking new and reflects the city that it's in. Instead of making a old-timey ballpark in some of these new places for places that hasn't had a Major League City stadium in there before, or maybe in Chicago, the Chicago White Sox needs to do something to counteract Wrigley. Wrigley is the old timey place. Maybe the White Sox have a brand new futuristic or just a brand new sensation for their stadium that goes with the field that happened in Las Vegas. There's a cautionary tale. There's a team that was salivating for a new stadium and went against the grain, made a modern looking ballpark that looked and felt different from everything else, and it was the Marlins, and it turned out to be a disaster. But part of the reason it turned out to be a disaster was it was the same old thing with the ownership. They brought in a bunch of players in 2012, but by the midseason they were selling everyone off, and it was just business as usual for the Marlins. And Marlin fans say, "Hey, we've been here before. We've been here before. We don't trust you." And this is where Fisher comes in. Fisher has to prove me wrong, and everyone else who's criticized him wrong. I'll admit when I'm wrong. I did earlier in the show, but they need to show that they're going to not only put this stadium together, but put a winning product on the field. The stadium will bring people in initially, and it'll be a great, great bump and a great thrill to go to this new type of ballpark. But then you have to deliver on the field as well. The Dodger Stadium, when they built that on Chavez Ravine, was a great new ballpark, and they almost immediately had a World Series in there. Shea Stadium had a couple of years of momentum behind it, and the Beatles gave them a big boost as well, but eventually they had to put a winner in there, and they did in 69. The A's and Fisher have to eventually put the product on the field. The field that they're going to make, it looks like it's going to be fabulous, and that could buy them a year or two of goodwill in Las Vegas. We got the team, we got the stadium, it's brand new, but then you got to turn it around. It can't be business as usual. It can't be, oh, we're going to tear the team down whenever anyone asks for more than minimum wage. Oh, we're going to let the stadium go to hell and everything like that. They have to prove that they've turned over a new leaf. And if they do that, I'll be the first to say, good job. And believe me, that first year that they play in Vegas, you're darn right I'm going to a game there. Hell, I've been to a game at Sutter Health Park. You don't think I'm not going to go to a game at the new stadium in Las Vegas? It could be a trendsetter and put the A's at the front of the parade instead of behind it. We saw what happened with the Giants, who had one of the worst stadiums in all of baseball. And they were drooling to get the hell out of there. They almost moved to Toronto. They almost moved to Tampa Bay. And now they have one of the best parks in baseball. Now, the A's, we all know about the Coliseum. We all know they're playing and they're crashing on the couch in Sacramento. They've been looking for a new ballpark to fit their needs since they were playing in Shibe Park and later called Connie Mack Stadium in Philadelphia. It's been since the early 50s that they've been nomads wandering through the desert. Now they found a potential oasis in the desert. And if they can hold on to it, then guess what? They will be trendsetters. Thanks so much for listening to this Locked On MLB, Locked On A's crossover. We're going to be following more spring training games. And also, Locked On A's are going to see me travel to Sacramento. Make sure you subscribe and follow where you get all the latest podcasts, and go to lockedonmlb.supercast.com or lockedonace.supercast.com. Join the Everydayer Club and get the members-only Discord access and more. And check us out at the new 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. Okay, for fans of Locked On MLB, let's do the trivia question, which is this. What is the only franchise to never draw 2.5 million fans for a single season? There are 30 franchises. Every one of them has drawn 2.5 million fans for a season, except one. Put the answers down on the YouTube channel and let me know. And by the way, thanks everyone who watched this live. I didn't get to everyone in the comments section because I'm trying to cut it short a little bit here, and we're already going long. Talking about the stadium in Vegas, eating a little crow along the way, being hopeful and wanting the A's to be leading the charge. This has been Locked On MLB, Locked On A's crossover. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, I'm begging you, just call me Sully. I didn't sneeze.